Hello and welcome to Social Club, back up north and hopefully controversy free. Let's get let's get stuck straight into it. The title race was really hotting up. Just needed Chelsea to maybe drop a couple more points and Spurs to stride in there to right all the wrongs of so many years, and then they got beat by West Ham on Friday and effectively ended said title challenge. Is it as simple as saying, James, that Spurs have done it again? They've Spursed it up. Spurs.
Yeah, of course not. No, I think you're winding up a lot of people with that title, Paul. You know, I've been done. You've thrown me under the bus in previous social clubs saying there's a title there that's going to annoy people. All Spurs fans are going to get very irritated by that because of the incredible run and they're the only other team apart from Chelsea who've put a decent enough run together to give us the opportunity to talk about a possible title challenge, I guess. So I think that's nonsense in my opinion. I think they've had an amazing season, and they're in a good position to go on and do better. What do you lot think? What do you think?
I agree.
Okay, Jay.
Yeah, I think basically that I agree with you. Basically, you've had a really good season. You've got a really good foundation to build upon now, and. Remember a few years ago, like 2010 in the Premier League, where it was like the established top four.
So long
Heads
ago.
disagrees.
So long ago.
But it was the established top four. It was like Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, and I feel like Tottenham have become a part of that established top four. And now they can go into the transfer market and say, look, last 2 years, we might have done shit in the Champions League, but we're there every year.
I think that's a really good point. I think we've discussed this in previous weeks about how I personally think there will be a lot of flux in that top four in the coming years, because if you've got 7 or so truly competitive teams, then you could find the teams that get Champions League actually end up dropping out the next season unless you are one of the Uber clubs. But it looks like credit to Spurs, they've established themselves right up there, and that's I think that is to be commended. It is a shame, Pep, because I don't know. I guess it would be nice to see a team that's not Chelsea or a team that's not Man United or whatever actually come out there, because they're not paupers by any stretch of the imagination, but they do have a decent philosophy in how they're building.
Ultimately, Chelsea won the league at our place last week. Basically, that was their toughest game, and there's always that game that a team, if they win it, everyone knows, and they won it at Goodison. You could sense that. I think what Spurs have got to do, and James just made a really good point, is this season, without really buying too many players, they've gone up a position.
Yeah.
So this summer is going to be massive for them. This is where we're going to see if Spurs are the real deal. I think Champions League, playing at Wembley for the whole season, means that they're going to need, I think, a slightly different way of playing on top of the way they do play, and they're going to have to go and buy those players that fill that gap, and that's the hardest thing. That is really, just going up a place or 2 places can take 2 or 3 players. They're going to have to go from second to first with everyone else behind them chasing as well. So they're going to have a really good summer. Last summer it was all about keeping what they had and maybe buying a couple of others. The players they bought didn't really come off massively. They need some big names this summer, and I think if they do that, they could progress.
In terms of Spurs, have they done it again? Have they kind of bottled it? That was the word that came out straight away. This is football fans now. It's just so much more vocal all over Twitter, everywhere. As soon as they lose a game, right, they bottled it. They're crap. They've done it again. What I think they might regret, because I think they're going to struggle a bit next year at Wembley. I think that's going to be so difficult for them. I think
there was a video about that on
available on a football-based channel.
You know what to do.
Yeah. I forgot my point.
You're going to struggle.
No. The game that I think they'll really regret not winning is that FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
Because the big thing is, I think I saw a stat where they've lost their last 4 games or 3 games in May, and they've lost 3 between August and April. The point is they haven't won anything, and that's the stick you can beat them with. Yeah. So I think they will regret not winning that FA Cup. Winning the FA Cup, because just to get that trophy done. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing for me, the criticism I think of Spurs is more when does the title come? Is it next season? Because as we say, Wembley's a different kettle of fish. You don't know how you're going to react in that situation. I'm not saying like they've deliberately thrown it away. I'm just saying I feel like this was still a good opportunity, and maybe slightly harsh because look, Chelsea have been fantastic, haven't they? You know, ultimately the
Yeah.
amount of games they've won and the method in which they've done it, it was always going to be tough for anyone to reel them in. But I do wonder where does Spurs' challenge come from, and where does the expectation start to come? How many years can Spurs continue to not deliver?
I think what's vital is that, and it's pretty mad that we're talking about it in this context, but it's vital that Tottenham don't do an Arsenal and don't rest on their laurels and not buy a top quality player in the summer transfer window. Like, they need to make a hallmark signing of a striker or an attacking midfielder who's like world renowned on the world stage, and just splash that bit of money and show a statement of intent in the same way that Arsenal did with Ozil and Alexis Sanchez in previous years. Ultimately, those signings obviously came a few years too late. But what Tottenham need to do now is really go out there and make that signing. Yeah. And I think that will be what divides them from being a club with ambition and money and everything what they've been living up to the past 2 seasons, and a club that, basically, as we say, live up to the stereotype, Spurs.
Has the pressure really just come from, I guess, it's probably that people probably dislike Chelsea more than Spurs, so it would have been nice. And maybe also, I guess, the culture we're in, we're going to be talking a little bit about the hype of the Premier League this season a bit later on, but there's almost a need for there to be a title challenge, you know what I mean, just to make it more, to make the whole
Where
thing
does that
more
come from,
interesting.
though? That comes from the media.
Yeah.
That comes from satisfying the thirst for something to happen on the final day, because that's what ultimately the media drives
A narrative,
the narrative all the time in the Premier League. It's why they get as much money as they can. They want the final few games to have something on it. They don't want...
I think we all do, don't they?
Well, I don't really care. I only care about my own team.
I think we're told that we all want that narrative, but the narrative is essentially pushed by broadcasters in the media. And the prime example of that is how mad everything was when Man City won the league. I think so.
Maybe one good sports film that was all wrapped up about 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, it's true.
Just right. You want it right to the end. You want Man City and Aguero and that goal in that final second. You want that.
Well, Villa have finished mid-table this season. I've been very happy.
I've loved every minute.
Wrapped it up 3/4 through. I've been more than happy, mate. So I don't know what you know about.
But no, I agree. Look at deadlines, eh? You know, the final day is being billed as a thing. You know, it's a real thing where you sit down. Whereas realistically, if you just go to footy, it's no different from any other day. Other than you can either go, yes, that's it's the final answers to your questions for the season, really. But ultimately, you just watch Match of the Day, don't you? And you have that bit where it cuts back and forth a bit, and it's slightly more interesting watch than normal. But that's
Do you know what's really good for having like a one-off day where you can get an ultimate winner?
Christmas.
The FA Cup final. That's dead good for that.
Yeah.
That is dead. Cup finals are dead good for getting one winner out of 2.
Yeah.
There you go.
Almost exclusively.
So there you go. There you go, TV companies.
So ultimately, then, are we saying that the response to Spurs' defeat to West Ham has been a bit overblown by people?
I think there's a bit of relief amongst the fans of the other teams, those other big teams, that they kind of are right. Yeah, you can lose as well because it was going so well for them. But they lost a game of football, and it was a London derby. I don't know. I think if I could be a Spurs fan or an Arsenal fan right now, or a Spurs fan or a Liverpool fan right now, I'd be a Spurs fan.
Idiots.
And he was chased out of Liverpool.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
No, that's fine. You have your opinions. You can keep your opinions. Right, just to direct you towards something, Ball Street reached 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Absolutely made up. It's all down to us and Social Club, of course, and not the hard work that goes in from James and Flap behind the scenes.
You're not far off.
But there's a 50,000k giveaway video. You can click here. You can watch it. There's an amazing competition to win an amazing shirt. We're going to be doing more on this show. Subscribe to the Ball Street channel. We're on the road now to 100,000. Let's make it happen.